hospitality, trying to help them tell their story better to get people excited enough in a session of browsing the internet where they stop everything they're doing and direct book right there.
Perfect. So let's jump into our first topic, social media marketing and direct bookings. Ben, if you want to kick this one off.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. I mean, we've had a ton of success at our own properties using video storytelling, particularly on social media to drive direct bookings. But I'll tell you, I didn't start out as somebody that really knew how to do this well or understood the power of social media. The first hotel that I built was Onera in Fredericksburg in the Texas Hill Country, and initially we were primarily just on the OTAs. And we had a social media influencer reach out to us on Airbnb and say, "Hey, would love to come out and do a collab post with you guys." At first, I was a little bit resistant, but ultimately, had her come out, and she drove about $30,000 in direct bookings for us across two posts. So that really, opened my eyes to the power of direct bookings and social media first marketing. And we did a lot of influencer marketing that first year. We still do some influencer marketing, but it was really a year later that we doubled down and tripled down on our own content and creating our own video. We first tried to hire an outside third-party social media agency. And I came to find out pretty quickly that content and video was not the top priority for them. They were sending a lower level, junior employee once a quarter with an iPhone to capture footage. And even with my limited experience in social at the time, I knew that wasn't going to cut it. And it didn't. Like, our growth stagnated. We weren't seeing the engagement. And so my co-founder and I basically took it upon ourselves to, solve this problem ourselves and build out a team that could create beautiful video content that would perform really well on social and drive direct bookings. And that's what we set out to do and what we've done the past couple of years. At that property, Onera, we've driven 37 million views. We have, typically get 5 to 10,000 link taps a month. So that's people going into the Instagram page, clicking on our hotel booking website link. So it's very targeted traffic that's interested in booking. And we have roughly an 80% direct booking rate that is by and large driven by organic social and video first marketing. So we did it for our properties, and then we started expanding and offering it to other hotels as well. And have case studies I could share on that front, but we've just continued to see that consumers are on social. That's where they're discovering travel. That's where they're getting inspired to book their next stay, and that trend is only going to continue.
Ben, taking it back to that first influencer
Yeah.
that really blew things up for you. So, like when I think of the influencer marketing for, let's say, a hotel like yours, there's so many different variables, right? It could be like their follow count, it could be the story they tell, who they are, the shots that they're capturing. Was it just everything that kind of hit, or do you think there was a few different aspects that really helped to drive the bookings for you?
With that influencer, I think she touches on all of the keynotes that we look for in an influencer. She's got a highly curated, targeted network for our demographic. So she is a Central Texas travel influencer. It doesn't get more targeted for us than that. And I think she's the best one, right? At the time, she only had a couple 100,000 followers, but she had very high engagement. She now has 1 million followers a few years later and still has extremely high engagement. So she's always my first call now whenever I'm opening something in Texas. We opened up Onera Wimberley, and her reel did, 1.7 million views or something and got us to 15,000 followers in about 2 weeks. So she's very targeted. She has high authority, high engagement. One thing I love about her content, which we've taken and made a key component of our content and the video that we create, she's not the main character of the show. Like, she's not the main character of the video. She is what we call like a non-primary character. You see her hand, you see like over her shoulder, maybe she even has a friend in the video, but that's not the focal point. The focal point is the property, is the experience. And she, the model, is basically just allowing you to envision yourself there. So she does a really good job of that. And yeah, I think we've kind of shifted our strategy on influencers, and I could kind of digress on this quite a bit, but we go after the best in market now. And then, the freebies, those micro influencers that will come and do a free collab, trade for stay. And you can also, you'll get that content if you want to use it for some UGC purpose. So yeah, we go with the freebies and then the best in market that might cost you $3 to $5 grand a pop. If it's a national influencer, it might be 10 grand, but the ROI is there.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice for hoteliers trying to filter through influencers, what to look for? Because I know during my time, I received influencer requests about just about every day. So
Yeah. So I would stay away from the influencers that are look at me, right? The account's all about them, like they're the star of the show. I would stay away from that, like, because that won't translate as well to your property. It's more about them and their lifestyle. So I'd watch out for that. I'd watch out for unrelated influencers that want, a free stay and they like doing hospitality trades because it's a good perk for them. Like fitness influencers have not converted very well for us. It's just too tangential. Foodie, on the other hand, foodie influencers do have good overlap because there's often like hospitality crossover there. Restaurants, hotels obviously are pretty intimately connected. So that's one piece of advice. And I mean, you can use a bunch of the platforms out there that gauge engagement, but you can also just look at the profile. If somebody's got 1 million followers and consistently putting out videos with less than 10,000 views, that's a problem, right? There needs to be some they at least should have some videos that in the last whatever 10, 20, 50 that you're looking at that are hitting their follower count and beyond. That's one sort of quick way that I look at it to see are they really driving views and engagement. And the other thing, I don't think a lot of influencers actually do this, but I'm sure there's some that do. You can pay for boosts, right? You can pay to be seen and increase views, but you can't pay for likes, right? You can't pay for shares. So you want to look at that, like and share ratio to view count to see if something is like true viral organic traction or if it's just pay to play. And if it's pay to play, that like and reshare ratio is going to be a lot lower than on an organic post.
perfect.
This I love that you say, what was it, non-primary character?
Non-primary character. Yeah. I think it's like a video game term too. But yeah, it's like you're not it's not the star of the show. They're just, and we do this in our own content. Like you're looking over the shoulder, you see
Yeah.
them, walking down or up a flight of stairs. You probably don't even see their face throughout the whole video. So that's kind of how we do it too.
In neuroscience, there's a term for this, and it's super powerful. It's called mirror neurons. So when we watch someone experience something like this, like say you're at a pool at a beachfront resort or you're tasting a local street food, our brains literally simulate the experience for us, which makes it feel like we are there ourselves.
Mhm.
Super interesting. It creates an alternate version of what we're watching, and
Yeah.
we're the character there.
Another influencer that is just masterful at this that you guys can check out is Jess Wandering. Jess Wander, she's a national influencer. She's probably at least 10 grand a pop if she'll go to your property. She goes to some of the most beautiful destinations on earth.
Mm.
But it's almost always like, from behind, you see the back of her head, you see her paddling in a kayak, but the star of the show is really the landscape and the experience.
Mm.
Well, Jason, you brought up neuroscience and video, so I think that's the perfect segue for our next section. The power of video and hospitality.
Yeah, I could definitely could jump in here. So when we use video, we always try to use video in a storytelling fashion. The brain remembers stories 22 times better than facts. So we oftentimes will hear people, even influencers, right? Like you hear word of mouth. People like influencers because they're telling you what to do and where to go, and you're hearing it typically in a story format. Imagine if somebody just got back from a trip and they started telling you, instead of stories about the resort, facts, right? Like Ben was on the podcast a couple days ago, and it's like, hey, I went to this really great resort. They had their pool held 75,000 gallons, and there was about 250 deck chairs there. And you can rent 10 cabanas, right? That would be the most bizarre story you ever heard. You're just hearing facts about this pool. It's not inspiring. But when you say, hey, we dropped our bags off, we got a wristband, they had a DJ at the pool, it was so fun. The kids were able to go to the kids club for 2 hours, where then they made an emergence. They swam with, their dedicated host. You're like, wow, your brain is literally filling in all of the gaps. You're there. and you're experiencing what in neuroscience they call brain synchrony. Brain synchrony is when I'm telling the story, and with a 1 to 2 second delay, you're picking up exactly the imagery that I'm kind of casting out to you, and your brain is filling it in, and you're like, wow. And you'll hear people say things like, we were so in sync. I was picking up what they were putting down. That's brain synchrony. Your brains were literally synced to the same frequency, and so with storytelling, you want these things to unfold as best you can as a story. So a lot of times when we have the immersive experiences on the right hand side here, we do this with the London House in Chicago. So if many of you remember, 90s sitcoms where it'll be like, hey, Full House in particular, we're in San Francisco. We're actually in this neighborhood. Now we're in this house. And then here's where the story unfolds. Here's the characters. Very similar to that, we have a pathway on the front, on the homepage of the London House. And it starts off showing a little span, a panoramic of the Chicago River. Like, hey, we're on the Chicago River. We're actually on the Magnificent Mile. This is the building we're in. And now we're in the lobby. Now we're going up the elevator. Now we're checking out the rooms. And so the brain is actually following this as a sequential story. It's not seeing out of context clips. Those are fine if you're just looking to understand kind of what the room might look like, but it's really powerful if you can get someone into a sequence of videos that tell a story. And something really interesting happened when we released this feature. We thought that this feature that I'm talking about is called Pathways. You can just swipe up to get to the next video. And we thought, well, maybe people put like 5 or 6 videos in there, right? Some people put 10 in there. Some people put more. And what we found was people like to swipe to see what's next, but they'll also just sit and watch it auto swipe up if it's being told to them or shown to them as a story. And to our great surprise, over 50% of people who entered the pathways finished all the videos. Finished all the videos. It could be 6, there could be 10. And so that was really powerful that as soon as you start showing these, and usually our pins and pathways that we have are done in a story format where you're like, okay, hey, we're approaching the clubhouse to the golf course. And now we're getting in the cart. We're taking our practice swings. We're teeing off the first hole. We're stopping for some refreshments, right? And so your brain's filling in that this was a good round of golf. And that's been extremely powerful for us. So we have a great customer success team that looks at everything as a story. What's the story you want to tell? What's unique about your property that isn't maybe being seen down the road? Let's tell that specific story and try to create those mirror neurons where we can get people to see themselves as the main star in this.
Yeah. 100%. We devote a lot of time and energy to this as well. My co-founder, who really, is started our content division and is very hyper focused on storytelling. He will literally interview the owners and the staff members for hours when we sign up a new client to get to the nitty gritty of the story of the property, of the story of the city, and then think about how we can craft immersive video to tell that story. So yeah, couldn't agree more. And the way that you tell that story, I mean, for us, it starts with the hook, right? What's going to get somebody to stop scrolling? I think for Hovr, it's a little bit different, right? They're already on the page, so the hook is not quite as important. They want to just visualize themselves, based on whatever they're looking at on the website. But for us, the hook is highly, highly important. And you could have the same video. Like I saw this reel yesterday where I was talking about literally same exact video. One has 63 million views. The other one has 85,000 views. And it was just a difference in hook. One was, here are the 15 most beautiful places in the USA. And the other one was, places in the US you need to visit before you die. Which one do you think did better, right? Before you die did better, right? That evokes a feeling and an emotion and pulls you in like, unlike the other, which is more of facts, as you were describing, Jason.
Yeah, even in words, we see this all the time. Like you could list oceanfront views, but then that's completely different than showing a video of a breeze moving the curtains as the light fills the room, right? And like it's similar, right? Oceanfront views, you're going to look out, but the feeling that you're invoking is a lot greater. We actually went out, just to piggyback on your co-founder's story, trying to get to the bottom of it. We went out, we had an event to go to a couple months ago down in Austin, actually. And one of our clients was expanding, so they said, "Hey, can you jump out there and take some content?" We don't often do that. Folks like yourself, we would tap probably or make an introduction to. But I was like, "Yeah, I'll go over, do a half day." And so the first thing we do, we get down there, and I'm talking to the front desk agents, the bellmen, the people there. I'm going, "Why do people stay here?" Right? Because and I looked around and I saw the other resorts that were there that I won't name that are just 3 miles up the road, right? Very similar. And I say, but why do people choose to stay here? And I even, asked the guests like, "Hey, you having a good time?" Just in the elevators, what made you choose this place? And like, I wanted to relax, right? And what we heard over and over again was people come here to, their words, not mine, to slow down. Everyone was walking slower than normal. Like it was almost like they're walking slower. They're at peace. They're hitting the spa. They're out on the roof deck, the pool deck, excuse me. And and so it became evident that when we show this video, the video must be slowed down because people are coming to slow down. And just even matching that, instead of showing, fast pace swipes, movements, it's just everything was slowed down to 0.75 or zero point 0.5 the speed. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yeah. I mean, we talked about this as like content and video matching. And for us, there's also an audio component typically as well. So it's like, how do you get all of those things to be in perfect harmony? It's a challenge. I mean, it's both science and art, but it's something that we're always after.
Absolutely. And how do you add audio? You mean the actual person's audio or music?
Trending audio, like trending audio for social platforms, like often you need the clips to be in perfect harmony with that trending audio and the beat, and also there to be congruence between the hotel, the subject, the story, and the audio, right? Those things need to be in concert.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you add audio too, so the audio from a neuroscience perspective is actually hitting a portion of the brain that it deals with memory. So you're going to retain that video better if it's associated with any type of audio as well, which is incredible. Long after, so let's say you don't convert right there from the video with audio, the same video you add audio, any audio at all, it's the video is going to be remembered and retained longer, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And super important because, I mean, dirty little secret, like very, very rarely is somebody stumbling upon our reel for the first time, a video on Instagram, and booking right then and there, right? They're remembering it. And then 2 months later, they're coming back to book. And, they might Google search it at that point or whatever, but they first heard about it and found out about it and were inspired to stay there in the future from a video.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you might hear people say like, "Oh man, that song's stuck in my head." It's it literally is.
Yeah.
So I guess that takes us to experiential travel and the modern traveler. So Ben, if you want to kick this one off, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think that experiences and to some extent stories about those experiences is the new social currency, and in the new, almost the new like luxury and if you will, and what people want to spend money on is these novel experiences. So I've super leaned into that. We've super leaned into that in terms of our properties, creating tree houses and safari tents, and all these wild shapes and things that are very shareable and sort of attractive and wow worthy. So that's been something we've focused on from a property standpoint. And we understand that the modern traveler, they want to be pulled in. They want like, immersive video that helps them understand what it's like to actually stay at the property. They want to discover it on social, so it's very easy to share it, right? These platforms have shareability inherently built into them. And we often think of the modern traveler as sort of the influencer, not like we were talking about influencers before, but somebody within a friend group that you might ask, like, where should I stay when I go to this place? And they, have their own sense of value and identity wrapped up in like, oh, I know the cool, places to go, the novel experiences. So that's who we're targeting and who we're trying to draw in with our video content.
Yeah, I'll piggyback. We do this, right? So like any listener right now, you do this. I'm planning, trying to plan a birthday trip here, and where I'm going, like the city or town that I end up in, really does not matter. right? I want to have a certain type of experience. And so I'm willing to go to Miami or Chicago or Dallas or wherever that I can feel the way that I want to feel. I can experience the type of things that I want to experience. And the truth is that a long time ago, you would you would punch in, I need to go from New York to Dallas. And then it was about the fastest route, the cheapest ticket. It's just how can I quickly execute this thing that I'm wanting to do? And now it's far more about discovery, especially for leisure travel, business travel, right? You got to go where you got to go. But for leisure travel, if someone can show you a better time, you're going to take it. Expedia, sorry, Travelocity. I was on a panel with a VP at Travelocity, and he sort of gave me this really interesting fact that I have not forgotten, which is in their ecosystem, and I have to assume that this is true for Priceline and Expedia and whatnot. Over 50%, 50, over 50% of the bookings that they received were to a destination other than their original search term. So if you typed in Chicago, I'm going to Chicago, over 50% of the time when you booked, you were going to Nashville or San Diego. If you're typing in LA, you're going to end up in Portland, over 50% of the time. And so this is a great stat that is it sort of exemplifies the fact that people are open to discovery. If you can show them that there's a lot of events going on in Nashville this weekend, some live music, there's going to be a half marathon, maybe you will switch and you will go for that better time. That's what the modern traveler is after.
So we do have our first question from the chat.
Mm.
What kind of stories do you think convert best? Is it simple tours of the property, or is it people in action, eating, doing activities?
So we try to blend those two things together a bit. So there's some in our, what we call our base content, which is really showing off your property, the experience, allowing somebody to envision themselves there. It's very like inspirational and aesthetic. So with that content, we need an initial hero shot that's going to draw them in typically. So that could be Alila Maria Beach is one of our clients, and they're right on the coastline. So we'll show this dramatic drone shot showing the water, the waves crashing, and the hotel sort of in the background. So that will stop the scroll. But from there, we'll introduce a model, non-primary character, eating, getting in the bath, opening the door to a room, things that will sort of create motion and sort of invoke this idea of like, what is the story of this person experiencing the property, and how can you envision yourself doing the same thing? So that's one version. There's always, founder stories, staff stories. We talk about itineraries as well is one thing that we talk about quite a bit. And I think I saw on one of the earlier screens with Hovr, like where you're trying to plan your trip, and we're helping you do that as the hotel. So there's so many different ways you can go with it, but there's a few.
For us, we start sort of right on the website. And so our top of funnel is like the homepage. And so the homepage is going to be more generic, people eating activities, trying to cast a wide net. The further you go down into the site, let's say / rooms or accommodations, then it's going to get very specific in terms of simple tours. So we're just showing this room type. We wouldn't show a very specific room type on the homepage. So if you're getting down into the spa, it's going to be very specific about the spa, the facility, maybe some of the estheticians, et cetera. And so the further you go down, the more specific the content's going to get for whatever you're trying to evaluate. We wouldn't then, on our rooms, open up the can of worms again to have you backtrack or go out, sort of always funneling down into that conversion.
Sweet. So we'll move on to our next topic. Why invest in social media marketing and video?
It's where people are, 5 billion people, 3 hours a day, I think is the statistic right now. So for us, it's meet consumers where they are and where they want to discover and be inspired to travel to their next destination. So something like 75% of millennials and Gen Z are getting inspired and influenced to book their next travel destination from social media. almost 100% of them are posting on their trip. And those numbers are only going to go up, right? That 75 is going to be 95% in a matter of, 3 to 5 years as some of the younger generations come of age and start booking more trips on their own. So you can get ahead of it and sort of reap the benefits of getting ahead of it, or you can wait and then be trying to play catch up when it's really table stakes. So, we try to work with clients that understand that we are in this social media revolution today, which is driven by video content in most ways. And it's very similar to like the internet revolution of the 90s and 2000s, then the mobile revolution in the 2010s. And the companies that super leaned in to those revolutions that were happening, right? Like Amazon during the internet revolution, you sort of blew Borders books and Barnes and Noble out of the water, and same with Netflix and Blockbuster, right? And then later on in the mobile revolution, Uber and Airbnb super leaned into mobile and dominated the competition. And now you're seeing it with social media more in like direct to consumer politics, like a number of different areas. The companies that are leaning into social are dominating, but hotels are just a little bit farther behind, I think, and it's coming.
It's super interesting. I mean, we're very close to it. It's interesting that this question is being asked because video has won. Absolutely, hands down, it won.
Yeah.
We are in an attention crisis. People have less than a goldfish attention span, 8 seconds. Video now accounts for 87% of all web traffic. And the most astounding stat that I've read recently is the average US adult is consuming 6 hours and 45 minutes of video per day. And then they arrive on a website to be met with big bodies of text. When I'll just say society has trained them, we're going to entertain you, educate you, inspire you through video. You just sit back and you consume it. Now we're making you work. We're making you navigate and read. And so the user's always going to navigate towards the path of least resistance. Who's giving me the information I care about in the medium that I prefer? That's where the business is going to go. And so if you're not set up to accommodate not even the modern traveler per se, right? But just the average person in the United States, if that's your market, no longer are images and text going to work. We even do this thing when we talk to new customers. We say, okay, well, let's see how large this problem is for you, for example. So if Ben, I go like, okay, let's go to YouTube. I'll check out your website. Let's go to YouTube, and I'll just type in Onera, right, and maybe some other keywords. And when it pops up, you can see. So some of our clients may have 52 followers on YouTube, but in the last 6 months, 15,000 people have watched this video. That tells us that people are leaving the website to go try to find information and answers, which is kind of awesome that they're giving you an opportunity. But a lot of people just leave and they'll find somebody else. They'll find another website that's giving them those answers. So it's no longer like, why do we invest? It's how much and how big do we go, and what are the best tools? What are the best tactics and tips that we can do to try to convert? So the best players are they're definitely moving quickly into video, but then they're adding the layers on top of storytelling and the nuances, understanding the neuroscience of it all. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of good. There's a great opportunity though, because the bottom line is that travel and hospitality is the only industry where dreaming is a stage in the buyer's journey. People want to dream in video. They want to dream in text, right? So let's dream with them. Let's make it easy to dream.
Yeah. And look, I still think that social media, particularly in the hotel world, is undervalued attention. And it's the best way to retain and attract new customers that there is out there. And one sort of, I think, mindset shift. Yes, you need to be investing in this heavily pumping out a ton of content. But if you're doing that, make sure that you're not just trying to sell to people. You're not just pumping out ads. You're actually trying to create authentic connections with the customer. And that could be through a well-told story through video of your property and beautiful aesthetics. It could also be through a funny owner or staff story. There's many different ways to do it, but just try to stay away from this like overly dramatized, like overly cinematic, sort of slow pan type video that you see on so many luxury hotel social media pages that just feels like an ad. Nobody wants to see ads today.
I think people can sniff those out too pretty quick.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, it's like the ads world is shifting where ads, like it's starting to become harder to tell if something's an ad or not because people are getting really good at making ads appear like, user generated content or, highly engaging organic social media posts and, platforms like Instagram or it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know how long that sponsored link's going to be there, right? Is this an ad? Is it not? And one thing about having great video content and having great organic social media traction, you can then use those creative assets for things like ads. Hey, this is a proven piece of creative that is done really well on social. Now let's bring it over and put ad dollars behind it, and it becomes a highly efficient ad because it doesn't feel like you're just selling to them.
Yeah, I mean, we all know like our favorite athletes or celebrities. When we see them endorsing products, you're like, they're not using that, and it erodes the trust. For someone like the influencer you're talking to, stories that are told to us with authenticity, meaning they're like not scripted. They are from this influencer. They stimulate oxytocin. So this is the trust hormone. This builds connection, emotional resonance, and it really can't be replicated. When somebody is giving us their authentic take on it and showing it with video as well, we believe them, we like them. It's a stronger bond that we're forming. I mean, I would almost say if people can't authentically talk about the property, it's probably best that they don't do anything.
Yeah, I think it's certainly wasted investment in dollars if you're coming off very scripted, very salesy, and inauthentic.
Yeah.
So we have a question. Do you find that different content types work better for certain age groups? Example, millennials versus Gen Z. And I'll just add, like, I can tell when a company tries to be Gen Z too much and it just does not come off right. So I don't know if you have any advice on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried some of this stuff too. Like, it's very easy to get into the like trying too hard mode where I don't know if you've seen, I can't remember. I think it was actually somebody in the political world, but there was this trend where you would have boomers, using Gen Z slang. I mean, I think it's still going on. And the ones that really hit, it was like they weren't trying too hard, right? They were just kind of like using these words. They would like goof up how to even use them, but they weren't like trying to sound cool, right? They're just kind of slipping these words in. So I think the dichotomy of the boomer, somebody older using these Gen Z words, not really knowing how to use them and not really caring, I think that comes off as really funny and authentic. We tried to replicate one of these, but like somebody that we tried to replicate it with, like was trying to sound cool and it just didn't land the same way. So it is very dependent on the personalities and who you're shooting. Yeah, there's some differences here. I see it more platform actually, even than necessarily content type, which obviously different formats and whatnot work better on different platforms. Millennials, Instagram is sort of where it's at. I mean, TikTok's growing, but Instagram's definitely, we see, biggest millennial market share, best conversion. That is still our number one platform. But TikTok is gaining ground and Gen Z is certainly, more TikTok forward and Gen Alpha is like all TikTok. So I think that like as these, Gen Zs and Gen Alphas like continue to get older, have more buying power, TikTok or some evolution of Instagram is going to win.
Yeah. When I think the length actually here matters. So, Gen Z is short form, TikTok reels, shorts, raw, unfiltered, first person. Maybe more of the millennial group is going to have longer form. They want to see more of kind of the walk around, mini documentary type itinerary focus. They might care a little more upfront about pricing or logistics, but the Gen Z, they essentially grew up with a phone in their hand and they're socially active. if it's going to take 10 seconds, they're the type that you would see when you're trying to show them a video. They would tap on the glass of the phone just to see how long is this going to be? How long is this video going to take? Just to see the scrubber there. So short form, quick, point of view, first person, for sure. So if you're looking at a specific audience and you're trying to attract Gen Z, it's just knowing your audience and speaking their language, which is short form video.
Yep.
Perfect. And then those were all the topics, but Ben, do you want to go over OAC as a resource for anyone watching today?
Yeah, happy to. We help bring your brand to life, your hotel to life through storytelling. So we help tell your story through video, which we've all talked about is the best means of presenting yourself today and captures the most attention and engagement. So that's what we focus on. We have a full team of videographers, editors, influencer managers, community managers, email marketers. We have this, wide range of specialists across marketing, but we are very much content and social media first. So that's the most important part of our offering. We'll be out at your property with our team shooting, 20, 25, 30 plus shoot days a year with professional videographers and models, et cetera. We've seen, I would say that if you're trying to boost your transient revenue, your leisure revenue, we are a great solution. Like that's where we drive the most impact. Those are people who are primarily getting inspired to book on social. It's the leisure traveler, as Jason mentioned as well. With Alila Morea, the property we have here that we manage their social for, and you have a real screenshot on the slide. They saw a 40% uptick in their transient bookings after starting to work with us, and they didn't change anything else from a marketing strategy. There wasn't anything else in the geographic market that changed substantially. So they're attributing a lot of that success and lift to us. So through video storytelling, social media engagement, we can really drive transient revenue.
And then Jason, do you want to say anything about Hovr since we have a few attendees that are not clients currently?
Yeah. So essentially, we work on top of existing websites with the sole purpose of using video content, neuroscience, and storytelling, showing people what it's going to be like and feel like at your properties. And we excel at educating and inspiring them to action. So people have so many questions. What's the pool scene like? Do they have a kids club? What's the dining like? Not just do they have dining options, but what does it feel like to be there? And so we really excel from just an ideal customer standpoint when there's a story to tell and it's a high consideration item. So not a Red Roof Inn where I'm like, hey, it's late, I'm on the road, it's here, I'm here, let's do this. But maybe we're traveling to get there. Maybe we want to know what the pool scene's like and what there is to do around the town. If you have a spa or a gym and kids club and a rooftop lounge, golf, leisure, all of those types of things, we excel at telling the story of the property and getting people excited enough to book. We know that 95% of all of these purchasing decisions are emotionally driven. So we're trying to get people excited on a website, and it's pretty difficult thing to do. But when you have tools that actually tell the story and show the video, it becomes a lot easier. So we excel at direct bookings. If anyone's interested in that, would love to have a conversation and see where the opportunities may lie.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just to follow on to that, I think that we're in the business of evoking feelings, inspiring people. And that's what we're trying to always achieve with our video. Another thing just to note about us, which I think is different than a lot of agencies out there, like we understand the perspective of the owner because we are owners and we have our own properties. So unlike other agencies, the content and the video that we create and shoot is your asset as an owner. Like we have license to use it, but you own it. If for whatever reason we ever part ways, you'll still have that as an asset. And, that's important to us to do that for owners.
Yeah, I love that. And through our conversations too, I was able to understand even more clearly that the marketers, the owners, the leadership at a lot of these hotels, they're spending a fortune getting people to their website only to have them leave seconds later And to the extent possible, if you can really get yourself situated in a position to convert them, you're going to actually have a greater return on the ad spend that's driving people, or the marketing, the influencer revenue that's driving people to your site. You want to convert them. You don't want them to leave.
100%.
It's funny, Jason, because we spoke about that recently when you asked me how much I was spending on my last property, and it was pretty much all driving traffic to the website, and I was spending about 100,000 a month. So
Yeah, my jaw hit the floor. I mean, for a couple $100, to be able to make sure you're not just holding water. It's like yes, this golden gift has been given to you. You got them to the website and you're asking them to work. You're asking them to read. You're asking them to figure out how long ago this image was taken. They're going to leave. They're going to go to an OTA. You bought them initially, and now you're going to pay a commission on it. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it's. I mean, the conversion rates in hotel and hospitality are quite low. I mean, some of that's price point, but typically we're seeing like 0.5% to 1%. So we're always interested. And one of the reasons I was so excited about Hovr, it leans into something that we believe, and we're creating these assets that can then be used on the website. And we've always, struggled in some ways to boost that conversion once they get to the website. So it's a great offering.
It's funny because we a lot of times, I appreciate that, Ben. We think of the fact that we're helping the marketers. We're helping the marketers be more effective or deliver video faster. And while that's true, at the end of the day, everyone on the Hovr team also travels. And how good does it feel when you're confident about an upcoming trip? You're excited about it. This plague, not only are the conversion rates really low, but it also, travel and hospitality has the highest cart abandonment rate of all of online shopping. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but it's great when people can book with confidence. It's great that we have a software that gives the marketers everything they need to go out and be more effective and have great, confident conversations with their owners. But then the actual people booking are like, thank you again, because now I can see with my own eyes what this place is going to be like, and I can book with confidence. I know I'm flying my 3 children, my wife, out to San Diego. We're going to rent a car. We're going to drive up an hour. And when we get there, I'm not going to be disappointed. I know what it's going to be like.
So we are a little over time, but we do have an exclusive offer for attendees who book a demo with Hovr in the next month. We're offering a free strategy session, waived onboarding fee, and access to our best practices and Top Shots guide. Ben, if you want to go over your offering, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. So typically our onboarding fee is about $10,000. So a lot of that goes to a boost or upfront sort of ad budget to push posts further that do well organically. We then put some boost dollars behind it, and then sort of set up. So instead of 10,000, it's 7,500. In terms of the monthly fee, it does depend on the property. It does depend on how much we're shooting, how much content we're putting out. Usually it starts at minimum about 10,000 a month. So we are targeting bigger hotels, with typically, 3 to 5 mil plus in annual revenue for it to really make sense to invest in, as heavily as we need to in the content. And then, yeah, we'll take $500 off the monthly fee for the first 90 days of service as well.
Sweet. So thank you everyone for joining. This was recorded, so I'll be sending this out shortly with resources and contact information if you need to reach out to Ben or Jason. Any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm just excited to have, seen Jason at what was it? Where's the first one we saw? Digital transformation in hotels, something like that, right? And then
Yeah.
and then again at the Direct Booking Summit, just like seeing your presentation and being like, yes, somebody else who gets it from the video perspective, and they're going at it from a different angle and a very different value proposition. Like, I'm just excited to connect and see how we can drive, better value together with clients.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Also, the podcast is going to be coming out on Monday that Ben and I just did this week as well. So if you'd like to check that out, it's the Moments That Matter podcast. It'll be dropping on Monday. Really appreciate your time, Ben. Thank you, Tyler, for facilitating.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Jason.